Don's Seafood, 4801 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. The cuisine is superb and the steak is outstanding. It's a seafood place with all kinds of great things, including the charbroiled oysters. And of course, the company's always great as well. And Don's Seafood on Veterans in Metairie between Clearview and Transcontinental. And that's where sportsNOLAtv comes at you from this evening. And a pleasant good evening to you. Ken Trahan with you. Glad you've joined us here this evening as we talk about a number of things, including football, basketball, a little bit on the Sun Belt Conference coming up with Commissioner Karl Benson. And we'll touch on the Pelicans, baseball, and much, much more as we proceed through the docket here this evening. And we'll do so with our three distinguished gentlemen who will, of course, provide outstanding analysis all evening long. Beginning with former Saints and NFL wide receiver Torrance Small. Torrance, good evening to you.
How we doing, Ken? How's everything? Hey, I'd like to send a congratulations and good luck to Grace King. Exactly. I had the opportunity to spend some time with them Friday. Went over to speak. They had a big pep rally for the big win they had over Brother Martin. I wish them luck in the championship game.
And they beat Acadiana in the semifinals to advance to the state championship for the first time ever, coming up this week at Ted Gormley Stadium. Bryan Allee-Walsh, sportsNOLA.com. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Doctor. Good evening, esteemed panel. I'd like to just say I can't wait till the 8th grader from Somerset, Texas, I believe it is, last name Dinkelman, nephew of Ty Detmer. He's already verbally committed to LSU to be their quarterback as a freshman in 2018. I tell you what, you think you see and hear everything. Well, it continue to cease to be amazed. I tell you what, good luck. I hope it works out. That's still 5 years away, 4.5 years away.
Pretty soon it will be an NCAA violation to buy diapers for a child that's born. Rickey Jackson, Pro Football Hall of Famer, par excellence in terms of his analysis as well, is with us per usual. Rickey, good evening.
Hey, good evening, Ken. I tell you what, man, just looking at the combine, looking how fast some of these young guys run, make me go back to my old days, man, Terrence, when I went to the combine. Trying to impress those scouts, that's what they're doing this weekend.
And a big shout out to Brother Martin, Turlings Catholic, and Bruley for winning state wrestling championships before a record crowd of nearly 14,000 people at the Pontchartrain Center this past weekend. When we return in just a moment, we'll delve into the NFL and the Saints as we continue with sportsNOLAtv from Don's Seafood in Metairie. Good. When you go fishing for talent, the bait you use is important, and of course, who you hook doesn't really matter in terms of where they're from, and the Saints are living proof of that with the small school syndrome that has produced good players for this franchise. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, glad you've joined us. The NFL Scouting Combine going on in Indianapolis, and it is a meat market. We all agree on that, but it's also valuable to NFL franchises who make sizable investments in players. So, as you look at the combine, Bryan, I know a lot of people are critical of the over-analytics involved in it, but realistically, with the money these people spend and with the cap the way it is, you have to make sure you have everything covered if you're an NFL football team before you go ahead and draft a player.
I agree, Kenny, and again, it's just part of it's one piece to the whole evaluation process. And again, I think one of the most important aspects to come out of this is not a 40 time or how they do it, positional drills, or interviews and the medical checkups. D. Ford from Auburn has failed his medical physical, and that's going to be, I've seen some mock drafts that say that they like him at 27, So, I think that's a really important aspect of it. But all the other stuff, I don't know.
George, I think Bryan's right. I think those two things are very important, the medical and the interviews. The interviews, because you want to know about a guy's attitude, you want to know about his motor, you want to know about what pushes his buttons and whether or not you can count on that guy in the fourth quarter when you're tired and you've been on the field for 60, 70 snaps. I think it's very important.
That is the most important part of it, because the 40 times and all, we know a kid can play, because a guy can go out there and run a 4.3, but he plays like he's 4.6. So that, I don't think that's the big question. We know a kid that can play. We want to know about this kid. As you can see today, a lot of players, not just NFL players, but professional players are getting in a lot of trouble, and we're looking at these guys and we're like, I didn't know that about him. And this gives these teams the opportunity to find out a little bit more about the player, and also, you know, to be able to make a good choice in picking up a guy and making sure he's the right fit for your team.
Rickey, one of the things we've seen over the years that's gotten a lot of attention, and I think it's been overemphasized, and it's also been something that people have used quite a bit against people, is this Wonderlic test, and testing the guy's entire ability to conceptualize what's going on, to show their intelligence. It's like an IQ test of sorts. How much emphasis do you put on that, and is it unfair to judge people on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's unfair because, first of all, I want to know if a guy's football IQ is the way it needs to be at, and that's what counts. I mean, some of the stuff that the guys doing off the field these days, you got no control over that. You look at the guy from New England Patriots, I mean, who would ever think that guys would do some of the stuff that they do? So, I mean, you can't judge a guy by some of the things that they're doing now. But my thing is, if a guy can play football and he can make my team win, I really look at that.
You're talking about Aaron Hernandez, Brian, and most recently, Ray Rice having some problems, but these things happen.
You know, I think all you guys bring up great points. I think take Jarvis Landry at LSU, runs a 4.77 in the 40. Now his position is wide receiver. You know, you need to have some wheels to play that position. I don't think that's going to hurt him. He's got to come back and produce a better time at his pro day. If he stays at 4.77, that could push him further down in the draft. But if he comes back, I think, you know, I'm like you guys. You look at what he's done against opponents in the SEC. This kid can play, plus he can also play special teams. You know, I don't like that to where that could possibly hurt him, but that's the way the game's played.
No, I don't think that's going to hurt him. I don't think it's going to hurt. The guy can play, flat out play. We know Jerry Rice can run a fast time, but here's a guy on the field, he plays a lot faster than what he ran. It's all about field speed. It's not so much about this time, this clock. We put a lot of emphasis on it. It does show a guy can change direction on, but can a guy do that when he has an opponent in front of him? Can he do those things? That's the question.
I think it will hurt him if he doesn't run a better time at his pro day, which I think he will, because we've seen him play. He's faster than that. He has the ability to get away. If he runs in the 4.7s at his pro day, then I think his stock will definitely drop, Rickey, because he's not a tall receiver. He's a 6-foot guy. If you're 6'2", 6'3", and the guy that comes to mind for me is Eric Martin, who was a big guy, big body. He could barely outrun you, but he was very good.
But Eric was a great receiver. I mean, and what he did was he ran routes real well. And one thing he was going to do, he's going to catch the ball. He don't care where they put the ball at. And I think they're similar receivers. I think this guy, he's going to catch the ball. And like Terrence said, he can play special team. Anytime you can play wide receiver and special team, that's a big plus for you these days. Because the Saints got a lot of guys over there, but none of them really good special team players. You can see that they have to use the little running back, scrolls back there to catch the ball and stuff just to make sure that they get a catch. So, I mean, you know, you definitely need a guy who can catch the ball and play special team and receiver.
No doubt, Brian, and I think that Martin's a perfect example, and he wasn't a high draft pick, and that's probably why, because he didn't have great speed. But again, these guys are there, and a lot of it depends on what team picks you. If they've already got a guy like that, chances are they're not going to be interested in another receiver that's not very fast. But if they don't have a guy like that, like Marcus Colston, who came around at the right time. Now, he's not slow, but he's certainly not a burn.
You know, all it takes is that one team to fall in love with you. And Odell Beckham, now Beckham might be just the opposite.
And we're going to talk about him in the next segment.
He may have played himself up, you know, because of his combine performance. So, but I'll tell you what, you give me a chance to get Jarvis Landry, I'll take him. At the right.
Another thing too, Colston went real late. I mean, so you know he don't want to be stuck going around. Colston went in. He'll get no money.
Now we pay no mind to the linemen in terms of their foot speed unless they do something astonishing, like a Terran Armstead did last year, Torrance. That was eye-opening when you see an offensive lineman that runs like that.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, he ran a 4.8.
No, he ran a 4.71.
Woo! Yeah, I forgot about that.
Faster than Jarvis Landry.
Correct.
Faster than me. Hey, big guys that can run, small school guy. There's another guy, but the combine works for these guys. Now, combine really works for small school guys. Give an opportunity to show what we're capable of doing, because a lot of people don't know us, but it's a stage for us to show our talent.
I agree with you. It's more for the Torrance Smalls than the Rickey Jacksons of the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, you got, you know, I projected to go right where I went at, around second round. You know, some people say late first round, but I knew that I was going somewhere in the first 3 rounds, so it really didn't bother me. But I seen a guy yesterday, man, I was looking at the TV and had a guy come across with a running back from Kent State or somewhere, run a 4.26. He flying. So I would take a guy like that and between the first and the 7th round, just to have him on my team to see what he can do.
When we return in just a moment, we'll talk about Odell Beckham Jr., some of the other LSU guys. More on the Combine as we continue with Sports NOLA TV from Don Seafood in Metairie, where a lot of people are here. They always are, and that's why. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening surrounds draft picks and the New Orleans Saints, who currently have 6 choices in the upcoming draft. Our question: when was the last time the Saints made 7 or more picks in a draft? You know, as in 1 each round, like prescribed. When's the last time that happened? Think about it. Good question. We'll have the answer a little bit later in the show. As Sports NOLA TV rolls on from Don Seafood in Metairie, Ken Trahan with the guys. Continuing on the NFL Combine, Odell Beckham was broached in the last segment, so let's take a look at Odell Beckham as a player. Take a look at the NFL Combine. His measurables: he's got average height for a wide receiver, but he's got a pretty big body, almost 200 pounds, and he runs fast, and he's got a good vertical and a good broad jump, and his hand size is okay. So, Brian, as you look at Beckham, when you factor in his ability to return kicks as well, is this a legitimate #1 draft pick in your mind?
Yeah, and I think with the performance the other day and his pro day, I think he's going to solidify himself as probably a second to third tier first round draft pick. Yeah.
Torrance, you get a good look at the hands we're talking about right there.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. This guy's a first round pick. One thing, he can do multiple things for you. He can kick off return, do punt return for you. He can also be a solid #2 and perhaps grow into a #1 for you as a receiver.
Well, Ricky, the thing about him is, as I like to say about some athletes, he's very smooth. He doesn't look like he's moving as fast as he does, but he is. He's very fluid. Some guys just have that natural look about them. He has that.
I mean, and my thing is, what I like about him is he's a football player, first of all. And he's going to catch that ball. He's not afraid of the licks and stuff. And that's what you look at. You look at a guy, when a guy coming to hit him, he don't flinch and do all of that stuff, missing balls. So that's what I like about him.
You know, he's not a Tavon Austin, okay, because he's bigger than him. But I just asked you this question. Who would you rather have? And I'm going to, Lance Moore or Odell Beckham? Okay, because they kind of, they kind of say they play, and plus Odell can do more, you know?
Exactly. Those things that I just stated, he can do more, and he's a lot faster.
Okay. Well, not only that, too, I mean, he's still healthy. I mean, Lance missed a whole lot of games.
Yes. All right, then there is the freak of nature on the defensive side, Jadeveon Clowney of South Carolina, who ran in a 4.4 range, a sub 4.5 range for a defensive end, which is absolutely absurd. Brian, this guy is a freak of nature.
D. Ford had a great line about him. He's a blind dog in a meat factory because he just runs wild. His just instincts take care of him. And as we discussed, guys, he's going to have trouble fitting in some kind of defenses, particularly maybe a 3-4. But I'll tell you what, 266 to run that fast, he's a freak of nature.
No, you let him go.
Yeah.
A guy like that, you just let go. Let him go at the quarterback. He reminds me of a Simeon Rice or a Javon Curse. Those type guys, speed guys off the end, and let him go and let him play.
Okay, Ricky, devil's advocate. We hear all this. We see this. The guy had 3 sacks last year.
Well, I mean, you know what? The guy didn't really want to play college football last year. I mean, the year before he was so good. He took this year off. He really didn't want to get hurt. You can see that. He played the ball game. Well, I'm not going to get injured. I'm ready to go to the pros and make some money. And you can see that the whole year he took the year off.
Well, and Spurrier questions his work ethic. I tell you what, he's a high risk reward. I see where people say they'd be foolish. He's going to make people regret it that they don't pick him. But I'll tell you what, it's caveat emptor. He's a guy that it's high risk, high reward. You're not sure. There's some question marks about him.
Guys, a solid first round, a solid top 5. I think he's a solid top 5. risk reward, however you want to put that, draft him.
All right. Jeremy Hill ran just above 4.6. That's very good for a guy his size. He is legit. He's going to be a very good NFL running back. Alfred Blue in the same range at 4.6, not nearly the talent that Jeremy Hill is. Now the other position that everybody focuses on, quarterbacks. Let's take a look at the primary quarterbacks at the Combine. Blake Bortles, a traditional guy, and he's under 5 in his 40 time, which doesn't make any difference because he's a big guy and he's a pocket passer. Teddy Bridgewater, good size, a little bit smaller hand than Bortles, and he elected not to run a 40 time, which is kind of interesting. Johnny Manziel, he measured just under 6 feet. Drew Brees would be proud. So would Russell Wilson. His hand size is fine. It's bigger than Bridgewater, and his speed is good. But Brian, we already knew that. This guy is a good athlete. What about these quarterbacks that we're looking at the top of the draft?
Well, I applaud Bortles for throwing at the Combine. And the other guys, Bridgewater, Manziel, decided not to throw. They'll do it at their pro day. And we were talking about this. Bridgewater, he even said this publicly, and it just kind of sticks out in my mind. He wanted to be able to throw in a very familiar setting to his wide receivers to where it's almost choreographed. And I don't like that aspect of it. I know that a lot of these guys do this, and I know pro scouts are going to attend, but boy, I tell you what, I just wish you'd go out and just wing it and do the best you can.
Well, I know you don't like it because you're not the one trying to get that job. You're not the one in jeopardy of losing
millions of dollars. I understand
but exactly. So why not control it the way you want to? Why not get it out there, have the receivers that you want? Because you got to understand, in the Combine, you're going to have many different receivers, some that don't even know how to run routes. I was watching these guys yesterday, and some of these guys still don't know how to run routes. So I think it's very important that they get in a controlled environment and do it the way they want to be done, the way they want it to be done. Now, the one thing, if they did do it, the one thing the teams are looking for are the fundamentals from these guys. They know some of the things might not be completed, but the fundamental part of the game.
And then another thing too, give those guys a little more time to get sharper. And then, like Terrence saying, one thing about it, when you go to the Combine, they got people, they just throwing guys out there to run routes. You don't know what they're going to do. You don't know the speed of them. But now, ain't with so many teams that want you anyhow. I mean, I don't care what quarterback you are. Ain't with 2 or 3 teams want you. Everybody don't want you. So to get a chance to perform for those teams in your environment, that's a lot better for you.
Yeah, much better on your own pro day, no doubt, because of the familiarity and the comfort level. The NFL calendar is well underway, and looking at some of the important dates, March 2nd, of course, teams designated franchise transition players. Jimmy Graham, are you listening? And then the Combine. And then March 8th, first day you can contact unrestricted free agents. League year begins March 11th. First day of workouts, April 21st. NFL draft, May 8th through the 10th. And at this point, Brian, looks like they're going to tag Graham.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see once they determine what the salary cap is this year and what all of these franchise tag prices are going to be. I'll stand by what we said last week, is I'm convinced that they're going to franchise tag before next Monday.
Quickly, Ricky, good or bad if they tag Graham?
Well, I mean, anytime you get tagged, the relationship never be the same.
Torrance?
It's business. It's business.
When we return in just a moment, we'll visit with Sun Belt Conference Commissioner Karl Benson. Big tournament coming up locally. That when we return from Don Seafood on sportsNOLAtv. She's enjoying it. So is she, and so are we. The specials at Don's are terrific, and so are intercollegiate athletics in particular. Sun Belt Conference basketball, which we'll get into extensively momentarily. It's a pleasure to welcome to our show Karl Benson, the Commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference. Great to have you with us, Karl.
Likewise, my pleasure.
Well, listen, it's a short trip to get you over here, and we love the fact that the Sun Belt Conference offices remain here in the New Orleans area, even after the University of New Orleans left the conference.
Well, and I think it's the heart of the conference right now. We relocated into the Dome, in the Superdome, so we are residents there, which has turned out fabulously. Our basketball tournament, is 3 weeks away here, and we really think that New Orleans is the right place for the Sun Belt.
Yeah, in fact, I'm very familiar with the space you have there. We have our Saints Hall of Fame Museum in the Dome as well. And you're right in the middle of everything. That's a great location to be in.
It is, and game days, there's a lot of activity, and we've got some nice signage down there. And when I took this job 2 years ago, I ran into a lot of people who were really surprised that the Sun Belt was headquartered in New Orleans. We were in an office building down on St. Charles and Poydras, and to kind of get out and especially get into an athletic venue, I think is really, really helpful for us.
Well, right now the Sun Belt Conference basketball season is winding down, heading toward conference tournaments. Let's take a look at the standings, in particular the top 4 teams on each side. First of all, on the men's side, Georgia State having an outstanding year. Western Kentucky always there. John Brady's Arkansas State team, and Louisiana Lafayette having good seasons as well. So bunched up in particular with the 2nd through 4th place teams right now. On the women's side, Arkansas State in great shape. Western Kentucky, Little Rock, and Texas State also doing well. And Karl, you've got some balance right now, and I guess that's what you're really looking to see.
You always want to have maybe that one signature team, but if you had to trade that for a balanced league, I think you'd always want to go with a balanced league. And come tournament time, teams have a chance to kind of rise a little bit and get into the mix. We are changing our format this year, and that only 8 out of the 10 teams are going to advance here to New Orleans and Lakefront Arena. So there's a lot to play for here these last few games.
Well, you mentioned Lakefront Arena in New Orleans, and of course the Sun Belt Conference tournament being held here in New Orleans, not just this year, but you've signed a 3-year deal to hold the tournament here. Talk about that, why you've done it, and what people can expect.
Well, again, we all know how great a destination New Orleans is, and I know that our fans throughout the conference are really excited about coming back to New Orleans for the tournament. You look at the geography of the Sun Belt right now, and it literally is in the heart of the Sun Belt footprint. We have schools in Texas, schools in Georgia. So New Orleans, we think, is really the right spot and the best spot for the Sun Belt tournament.
On the men's side, you got 2 teams in last year, and that's really what you're looking for, is the multiplicity. It's something that this conference had for many years ago, but not most recently. So that was great to see 2 teams in, because Middle Tennessee got beat in the conference tournament and had a good enough RPI to get there. Talk about this year and the ability to get more than 1 team in.
Well, it may be a little tougher this year. We don't. Middle Tennessee had the good RPI last year and got in as at large. Right now, it doesn't look like we have a second team that really has that outstanding of an RPI. So what we're focusing on now, I think, is real critical, is what type of seed does that team get, and how critical is it for us to advance? And we talked this off air. How important is it to advance the best team into the NCAA tournament with a good seed to give them a chance to win a game or perhaps 2? I've always said that a conference that can get a team into the Sweet 16 is in good company, because there's only 16 teams, and most often very few leagues are playing that second weekend of March.
On the women's side, I know most people might not be as familiar with what's happening there. Talk about your women's basketball right now.
Again, you look at the competitiveness and the growth of women's basketball in the Sun Belt. I think we're seeing some of the same results from good facilities, hiring good coaches, and that's the combination. And then you throw in some really good student athletes, and our women's teams are very, very competitive.
Well, you look at the other sports, football in particular, and really this particular sport has taken a huge rise, if you will, in terms of the way your teams have performed, the way they have become good football teams, been bowl eligible. In fact, you had 7 out of 8 bowl eligible last year. We know what's happened in the New Orleans Bowl the last few years. So obviously, this is a sport that's on the rise, and this is a signature sport.
It is, and we have to remember too that the Sun Belt is the youngest FBS, old Division 1A conference. Only been playing football for 12 years, and our competitors, our peer conferences, whether it's Conference USA, Mid-American, the Mountain West, the New American, those 4, along with the Sun Belt, we consider to be our peers. And this past year, we competed against those 4 in super fashion, and we sent 2 teams to bowl games, and both Arkansas State and the Raging Cajuns came home with victories for the Sun Belt.
We're in baseball season now, and clearly the Sun Belt has a rich history in baseball, and I think the Sun Belt has good facilities overall in baseball. That's been a big plus, and that's been a big emphasis in recent years. And you have a top 10 team in Louisiana Lafayette as well.
The Raging Cajuns, again, I think everyone expected them to come back. They were preseason top 25, and they've gotten off to a good start. And they've got great pitching and a great all-around program. Last year we had 4 Sun Belt teams go to the NCAA tournament, which again I think demonstrates the depth, but also the overall level. The other small ball sport in the spring, softball, is the same way, and the Raging Cajun women's softball program is a perennial, top 20 type program, and so at spring sport is pretty successful for the Sun Belt.
As we take a look at ticketing for the upcoming Sun Belt Conference basketball tournament, it's affordable. The dates are there as well. You can go to sunbeltsports.org. This is a big event town. Tell us about what's going to happen with this tournament that will make people come, that will get them attracted to it, and perhaps come back as well.
Well, I think one thing, Lakefront Arena, and there's still some people who may believe that the arena post Katrina was damaged severely. Completely redone, remodeled, spectacular facility. Lots of parking, great access. We think that besides the basketball games, especially on Saturday, there's going to be a big outdoor festival, kind of our own little Mardi Gras, post-Mardi Gras event out at Lakefront. And we're catering to families, catering to kids, school kids throughout the community. And we think that it is affordable. You mentioned affordable, and we really want this to be a community success. Besides the universities and their fans, we really want New Orleans to adopt this as an event.
Go to sunbeltsports.org for more information. Karl Benson, thank you so much for
Likewise,
the visit.
thank you.
Best of luck with the tournament and continued success to the Sun Belt Conference. When we return in just a moment, appropriate or inappropriate, political correctness, the NFL, all that and more in our Hot Seat segment as Sports NOLA TV continues from Don Seafood in Metairie, where the food's great, surf and turf, potatoes, oh my, the dressing. Use the seasoning and have some fun. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. This is a good one. When was the last time the Saints made 7 or more picks in an NFL draft? The answer is this regime. 2007 was the last time they have done so. You love to have your full complement and then some if you can. Just ask the New England Patriots, who seem to stockpile about 10 or 15 of these things every single year. And oh, by the way, they do pretty well. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV from Don Seafood in Metairie, where it is time for our Hot Seat segment, where we put Bryan Allee-Walsh on the hot seat with a hot topic and debate it. And it's a hot one today. On this panel, you have 2 former NFL players who happen to be African American and 2 Caucasian guys who never played the game and have no clue, but we do have opinions. And the topic today is all about legislation in the NFL. The most recent comes down about the N-word and not using it on the field in any capacity, facing fines and suspensions in the process. More legislation from the top of the league. Is this good or bad? And if so, why? Bryan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan, as always. Well, let me just say right off the bat, I detest the word. I would never say the word out of deference, out of feeling for these 2 friends, but the word, it just makes me crawl. I don't like the word, okay? And I know people like to say the word to each other. I understand that. The only problem I have with this, I don't think the rule is practical from this standpoint, is that how in the world are you going to control it on the field in the first place? Secondly, does that rule also apply in the locker room? If you're going to do that on the field, you make sure that you carry it, and you make sure that it's not a double standard. You make sure that African Americans don't call each other that name. You make sure whites don't call African American. You make sure nobody uses that word. Dan Rooney said it best. He went in and tried to prevent that word from being used. He talked to Ryan Clark of that word. Don't use that word. He didn't want his players to use it in the Pittsburgh locker room. And apparently out of their respect for Dan Rooney, they didn't do it for a day or so, and then they went back to using it again. Now here's a guy that they have tremendous respect for, an owner. but it's going to be very hard to control. I think I would hope that we have to stoop to this level, that we're going to make it a personal foul. People shouldn't be using the word, or if they want to call each other that, then that's fine. This is all in regard to the Richie Incognito thing. Give me a break, okay? Give me a break. That's one incident, and you know what? That word is being used all over the league, all over every league. So you got to get your priorities straight here, and I don't think it's a very practical rule.
I agree with you on that. I don't think it's going to be practical to be able to do. One, guys, you can't say you can have it off the field. You can't do it on the field, but you can do it off the field. How are you going to regulate all that? That's a lot of stuff. It's not only just the N-word. There's a lot of other words out there. They have words for gay people. They have words for Hispanic people, Latino people. They have a lot of different words. So now we're going to bring all these words into play. How do we regulate that? How do you know who said? Would somebody tell who said? It's a pal out there. You hear the word all the time. So how do you determine who says the word and all? I think you let an incident carry everything a little bit too far right now. Basically what you say. I think what happened down in Miami, it was an incident that happened, and now they're trying to control everything. Let guys play football. Let it be. Let's talk about it more. Let's conversate. I think it needs to be brought up in conversations a lot more, and hopefully we can get a better understanding of how this word really hurt people, and what the past, what people fought for not to be called this word and all. I think that should be taught, but to regulate it and keep people from saying it and all, no, because there's too many other things that's out there being said. You have to regulate all that, I think.
Well, my thing is this, Ken. The word, I'm from the ghetto. I was born and raised in the ghetto. And every song that all the guys, rappers, and everybody in there, they got it in there now. So all the kids, they hear it all the way up. And what you try to do is teach your kids that, don't say that word. And I understand that. But the whole thing about it is, you got white people, you got black people. Okay, what you call a white guy? So it's things that, we used to call white guys that wasn't right. So but it's just something that you shouldn't do. You shouldn't use the word, but everybody using it in the songs and everywhere. So it's how you use it now. And that's what a lot of people say, how you use it. But I think you shouldn't use it. But they're making a whole lot about it. Just like Terrence and Bryan said, they're making a whole lot about it. That you shouldn't use it. All right, we know that, but people still use it.
But not only that though. Not only that. What about the fans? Do they get to say it? Because you have fans up there that's yelling down stuff to you. So, so what, you're going to kick them out?
What happened in the basketball game? Allegedly.
Exactly. Yeah. Allegedly. But so what do you do? How are you going to regulate all this, what somebody says?
Last word, Bryan.
Okay, I'll tell you what. You can't do it the referees, officials have a hard enough job as it is. What are they going to go down into the huddle and go,
exactly.
Whoa, who was that? Was that the guard or that the forward? Who said it? Come on. Who said it? Yeah, who said it? Come on.
I think we're getting to that time and place where every player is going to be mic'd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We live in a society that's become too sensitive to everything, when in fact, the use of this word has been desensitized. As Rickey mentioned correctly, it's used all the time by everyone, and in particular by African Americans, which is terribly unfortunate because, as Torrance mentioned, where it came from, where it originated, and what it meant initially was terribly hurtful. It's despicable, it's inappropriate, and it's wrong. And I wouldn't call anybody that, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of how I felt. It's stupid and it's pathetic. But to try to regulate this, as Bryan mentioned, all three of you guys made perfect points. How are you going to do this in a league that already has so many restrictions? Hit them high, hit them low, don't even try, or you will go to the sidelines, because you can't hit anybody anymore, you can't talk anymore, you can't kick anymore either. They're trying to take that out of the game. Where are we going with this? And then, of course, we have the names, Chiefs and Redskins. What's next? You're going to go after that? Well, they've already tried to do that, even though they're institutions, and that's an individual owner and franchise's prerogative, whether you think it's rational or irrational, sensitive or not sensitive. Richie Incognito was mentioned, but Riley Cooper is also part of this as well. Why? Because he was drunk and at some concert, and some second or third hand microphone picked up a drunk making a comment about something, and he's still trying to live that down. And I'm not at all glorifying him or defending him, but again, that's the world we live in. How many people have used that word and have never been heard saying it? I promise you that 80-90% of the people that you encounter have used that word at some time or another in their life. What are you going to do? Kick them out of their professions? Give me a break. This is ridiculous, and it's getting way overboard. This is football. Call your wife a name, call your mother a name, that's okay. Call some other ethnicity a name, that's okay. Use the M word, it's not okay? Please. Back in just a moment at Don's Seafood in Metairie, where the food's great and the gumbo's delicious. Up to you. It's the website with everything. If you're a sports fan in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and beyond, at sportsNOLA.com. And we hope you will go there and you'll enjoy our newest additions to our site, including Will Pennigy, Ro Brown, and Lori Lyons, all of whom are doing an excellent job for us as well. That's sportsNOLA.com. Go there, enjoy it, visit on a regular basis. The New Orleans Pelicans, well, they're not winning. They haven't won since the All-Star break, and they've lost 3 straight, and they're struggling. And they lost to the Knicks. They lost at Charlotte, lost at Washington. They're close games. Every game is there for them to win in the fourth quarter. Can't close the deal. They made no trades at the deadline. They've got the Clippers at home tonight in an attractive home game, and then they hit the road for a long road trip against some good teams. That's only going to make it tougher. And Bryan, I think let's first of all start with the trade deadline. They didn't make any moves, and to me that was, I use the word disappointing, because they have 2 very high-priced players in Evans and Gordon, neither of whom are great players, and now they're stuck with them. And then you have guys who have expiring deals, and Morrow and Roberts didn't make any deals there. And they're not a team that's anywhere close to winning a championship. So to me, it was disappointing that they didn't make a move to try to get back into the draft, because that's the other side of this. Their record's too good to finish in the bottom 5, it would appear.
Yeah, you know, and you wonder how, if they were even, how anticipatory they were, or how they didn't work the trade table, from what I gather, well enough at all. We heard names being bandied about, but I don't know how hard they worked the phones. And Ken, I agree with you totally. You know, here, you know, what you're trying to see as a fan base is that you're making an attempt to get better. You either throw away this season. They play 11-13 at home in March. This is an opportunity for them to play well at home in front of their fans. I think it's important. But you know, they've got troubles, and this club is now mired in a losing streak. And you would hope that they'd make some attempt to try and get rid of some of that money. They're way loaded in the backcourt, and they've got too many people they're paying right now.
Yeah, they struggle to defend the paint, Torrance, and they have no offense at the 3 spot.
Yes, I think one of the key words that Bryan said is fan base. You know, if you don't know anything about basketball, you don't know nothing about these salary caps and everything. The one thing we know, we're not winning with what we have. We need some type of hope to the future, and we didn't do anything. And I think we should have done something.
Well, I mean, you know, I look at the Pelicans, I go to the game and stuff, but I mean, we're not letting the guys play. I mean, we controlling the guys, and that's what I see, Terrence. I see that you got a lot of talent out there, but they're not like the Miami Heat. They don't just go down and play basketball. What they try to do now is run the show and call the play, and you know, that don't work in the NBA a lot of times.
So quickly, Bryan, is it time to take a serious look at the basketball leadership of this franchise?
Well, Kenny, we've talked about it on several occasions on this show. Absolutely. You know, at some point, you're going to have to make a hard, tough decision and evaluate your upper management here, and that's Dell Demps and it's Monty Williams. And injuries do play a factor, but they've had plenty of time now to make it work.
Time to do so, Torrance?
Yeah, I think he either has to change his philosophy, or we need to make a change in the management or in the coaching.
And that includes the GM, Rickey?
Well, I mean, you know, you say the GM, you can say all that, but, you know, it's people over those guys. I don't think that those guys are making all the decisions anymore. So, I mean, I think that people over them making decisions. You got Mick Aluminum and all those guys running basketball now, so you just can't put it on those guys. You got to find out the bottom of who's doing what.
All right, college basketball, Tulane and UNO faring well in their conferences. LSU, a brutal loss at Kentucky, and a thriller, heartbreaking loss after they won at Mississippi State. We mentioned Tulane and UNO are doing well in their conferences, above 500, Brian, and that's a surprise. Kudos to Mark Schlesinger, kudos to Ed Conroy, and for Johnny Jones, they're close, but close isn't good enough. Paraphrasing someone else.
The Kevin Hill from UNO was named Southland Conference Player of the Week, sophomore from Eric. Congratulations. Who would have thought that UNO would actually have a better in-conference record at this stage than Tulane and LSU? UNO does.
Yeah, LSU is right there. I think they're probably a player or two away, a couple years away. But close game against Kentucky. I watched that game. Close game. They had an opportunity at the end.
Yeah, all year, man. They've been close. They done lost a lot of games about 3-4 points, Aaron. So they could have really been in the playoff. They'd had about another 4 wins or 3 wins. They would automatically got a bid this year. But now they win their conference championship. That's the only way they can get in.
LSU's got to learn how to defend. They don't defend well enough to be an NCAA team. Tulane, I really like Lewis Dabney. He's got a good future. College baseball, great start for LSU. They're 7-0, swept this past weekend. Their pitching's been out of sight. Aaron Nola might be the best in the country. Tulane won 2 of 3 in Louisiana Tech in conference play. They're 6-1. Garrett Deschamps had a big weekend. Cameron Hoffman out of Rummel and Delgado. 2-run home run at Zephyr Field. That's no small feat for UNO. Ron Maestry's team competitive. And Lafayette and LSU, the Cajuns and the Tigers, big matchup this week. Kudos to Joe Sherman as well. 800 career wins, Brian.
Kenny, I would let Rickey take me to the LSU-ULL game on Tuesday. Will you?
I'll tell you what, man, it's going to be hard for ULL to win. I like that LSU baseball.
They're both top 10 teams. They're both very good.
It really is a super regional. It truly is. Yeah. It's a super regional in the second week of the season.
Great for the state.
And Tulane's better this year as well. And I mentioned Joe Sherman and Brian, about 20 seconds if you want to mention that as well. Just what your take is.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, I'm a high school assistant baseball coach. We talk about where you can send your second, third level kids. If Delgado is a great place, and Joe's going to
Prep Soccer Championships this week at Tad Gormley Stadium, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Prep Wrestling we mentioned earlier. Basketball Championships the following week. Busy times with Prep. Back in just a moment on sportsNOLAtv from Don Seafood in Metairie. Don Seafood, 4801 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie between Clearview and Transcontinental. Call 889-1550. 80 years of getting it right, serving you the best seafood in proud fashion, where you can always count on the product and understand that it's fresh and it's real and it's Louisiana bred. It's Don's Seafood. You don't want to miss it. Come on by and enjoy Don's. The Sun Belt Conference Basketball Championships, March 12th through 16th at Lakefront Arena. Go to sunbeltsports.org. Thanks to Karl Benson for spending time with us earlier about this outstanding event, which will be here for 3 consecutive years. This is our final sportsNOLAtv show of the season, and it's always great to have you joining us week to week. We deeply appreciate it. sportsNOLA Spotlight will take the place of this coming up shortly every Monday night until we commence again next season. Torrance, a parting thought, a final thought that you might have for everybody as we close it out for this season.
Oh, enjoy the year. Just hoping we can come back. Hope the Saints can improve from what we did this year. Hope the Pelicans make some moves and do some things, and hope LSU can get to the new playoff system championship game next year as well.
Brian?
Well, like Drew Brees would say at the end of his season, you know what? I hope we're all back again next season to enjoy the fruits of our work.
Well, the band, we hope we can bring the band back together again for the next tour. And let me say on behalf of both of you guys, it's been great adding our good friend, 57, my brother in the Lord, Rickey Jackson, to the show this year too, man.
Thank you.
Bring some Hall of Fame to us.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, it's been a great year. I came on the show a couple times last year as a guest host with them, and I enjoyed it and came back this year. But my whole thing to everyone out there, I know that we won another Super Bowl and we won the NBA championship, and we just hope that those guys do the right thing, that just bring a great product like they got so far and make it better. And that's what you're looking at. For the college sports around Louisiana, I mean, they got some great college football, great college basketball. We love all the colleges, and we just thank you guys for looking at us every week.
Well, we have mutual respect on this panel, and it's genuine respect and friendships here that will endure for a lifetime. And that's what I would stress to everyone watching, is to respect each other. You don't have to think the same way. You don't have to agree on everything, but respect your fellow man and woman. It's important. And always respect the product at Don's Seafood. We want to thank Don's for being our host all season long, making it possible for us to come to you each and every Monday and taking care of our crew. We thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Our thanks to Don's Seafood. We strongly encourage you to come sample Don's any chance that you get. And on a personal level, I'd like to thank Adam Bandera and Andrew Alvarez and Lanny Van Gilder in particular for their great work, and the entire crew. They do an outstanding job. Now for Torrance and Bryan and Rickey, this is Ken Trahan saying thanks for joining us, and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. We are rounding third and heading home. So long.